The only reason why it's consistent is because I'm being consistent with the output. I'm constantly looking at, okay, how can I up the quality? How can I do something different?
I often just encourage people to use what they've got and start showing up and start posting video content with that strategy in mind and continue to, test and change and see what works.
What do you think is missing in marketing today?
I think there's a lot of distractions from different things that come up. So I think sticking to a strategy and being consistent in that regard, rather than jumping on this latest craze and hype and all that kind of thing, is definitely a trend I see happening.
I'm focused on a very few set of pillars to get work now, right? From a marketing point of view. Paid ads, content creation, and testing my creative to then use in paid ads. That's basically roughly what I'm doing. Hello, my friends. Welcome to a brand new episode of This Week in Marketing Today, and what is missing in marketing today. More specifically, today I'm going to be talking to Andy. He is someone who does a lot of video strategy. He's a filmmaker and also, of course, an agency owner. Andy, thank you so much for coming onto the show. Thank you so much for joining me today. And before we start off, before we get into your story a little bit, I mean, what do you think is missing in marketing today?
I think there's a lot of distractions from different things that come up. So I think sticking to a strategy and being consistent in that regard, rather than jumping on this latest craze and hype and all that kind of thing, is definitely a trend I see happening. There's obviously lots of good people doing things there as well online, but I think there's still that hype that's been going on for a long time online in the online marketing space, where it's like the latest craze, AI or whatever else. And lots of businesses obviously popping up recently with AI and stuff. And it's, some of it's free, obviously, some AI, but you see more and more people now like trying to monetize it and stuff and create their own AI, products and services and things. And so I think that can often distract marketers and actually do them a disservice rather than actually enabling them, because they actually might be, instead of being empowered to use that and have a strategy attached to it, they might not actually have the strategy side planned out enough. And I often just encourage people to use what they've got and start showing up and start posting video content with that strategy in mind and continue to, test and change and see what works, find out more about your audience, do that market research, and just test what you think people will want and see. And then obviously also ask questions and start conversations. Is like, what do you want? And those kind of things, that's the fundamentals of marketing. So I think if we just come back to the fundamentals of marketing, then that's just obviously a great place to start. It's the foundation, and then those other things can come into it and be useful. But I think a lot of the time it's just people jumping straight into the.
Yeah. Do you think, I mean, I guess my next question would kind of come along, I guess, like, should we trend track? Because I think some people within context and within, like, bandwidth, like, my view on it very quickly is, like, if you can do it whilst doing the stuff I'm sure that we'll touch on in respect to, like, the traditional marketing pillars, I think you should look for opportunities to get yourself out there a little bit more, and you should always try and be more visible, etc. But I mean, like, just building off your initial kind of answer, I mean, do you think people, they jump to trends maybe because it's easier?
I think it's exciting and it's obviously shiny, and it's like it does get you more of your attention, and a lot of people talk about attention and like, oh, you have to do short form now. Yes, you have to grab people's attention, and it's like people don't watch for more than like 30 seconds or things like this, and it's people not understanding that if you understand the person that you're talking to, you can get them to consume long form content. And I think there's just different things like that are going around, and it's been going on for years, obviously, of like people talking about their perspectives of what they see working, and it's like, yeah, that does work, but it doesn't mean that you have to always do short form. And it's like other audiences will want to watch that long form content, especially when they're like really interested in that one topic. So I think sometimes those different things that come into it, they're like different advice from different people. It just distracts you and gets you off the path of actually doing the most fundamental stuff, really. And it's not necessarily, to me it's not about traditional versus modern advertising or anything like that, because everything's kind of combined now anyway. So yeah, outdoor advertising is digital, radio is digital, and all this stuff. And like, these are the things that I've learned from Mark Ritson. So it's like I'm kind of just really talking back what he talks about here, but I just really resonated with the stuff that I learned from him. And I did his mini MBA back in 2021. And that's what helped me to understand marketing and understand the importance of strategy And also it's like it goes from diagnosis to strategy to tactics. But then, you know, some of this content he talks about how it's just oftentimes jumping straight into tactics and things. So yeah.
I think the tactics side, right, is like this new shiny. It's like that. Oh, we're gonna do video, we're gonna do live stream, we're gonna do etc. I'm sure, like, because we're both video creators and etc. I'm sure we'll get on to like the reasons behind why video, but and then maybe even why you should do live, etc. But like, I think for me, the reason why some people don't do like the strategic stuff is, I hate to say it, but it's like it's the boring stuff, right? It's the stuff at the top, which sometimes will actually mean you don't do the live stream, don't do the video. It's the reasons actually sometimes about why you won't do something rather than why you would do something, right? Because I think it's very easy for me to say, or you to say, who are quote seasoned professionals, to say, oh, well, you should do video, oh, you should do live streaming, oh, you should do this, you should do that, etc., right? Because we can naturally go towards that. We can naturally do it quite quickly because we have a skill set in it. But if you're looking at it from a very basic level, I guess the question that comes from that is like, well, firstly, how would someone get started, like from a strategic point of view? Like, why you market, like in a really nutshell, really basic way? Like, why does someone, and what does that actually mean? Like for maybe someone who's maybe on the fence and like, okay, well, what does marketing actually mean, like at a basic level from your perspective?
Yeah, well, the thing about marketing, it's such a broad category. So it's there's many different things inside that. But the thing that most people think about is the communication side. And when it comes to video marketing, for example, it is the communication side that is kind of the main thing. But there's obviously things around still behind that, because even if it is video marketing you're doing, it's like before that there still needs to be the market strategy underneath it that's like just marketing in general. So there's different parts of marketing. One part of it is pricing. You got to figure out what's the correct price for my target audience, what's the most relevant, and based on like testing and saying your prices to people, and then also like market research of asking questions about, is it just price or is there something else going on? And that's kind of sales as well, but it's like sales and marketing kind of, you know, go back and forth from each other really. But then the price and the objection handling and different things like that, that's stuff that's fundamental marketing again, but going back to that, which then once you understand that and you're doing your pitches or you're doing your call to action and your video content, then you've done that work. You can say it might be more boring work, but it's actually the most impactful and powerful work. So if you can recontextualize it in your mind rather than it being boring, think about how it's impactful, because we all want our businesses to thrive. So then if you're passionate about building a business, remember that is a thing that you do actually enjoy, because you'll get something out of it, and you want to be in the process of building a company and growing it. So like if you just remember yourself that you're growing and building that company, I think that's the passion and the excitement that'll remind you that it's not actually a boring task I'm doing, because there's context to it and motivation to do it. So the task itself doesn't matter if it's boring so much if you know that what you're doing it for. I think that especially helps for people like me, myself, neurodivergent and stuff. So when we've got a meaning behind things, it helps us to motivate us to do tasks. And because I've got ADHD, task initiation is another struggle for me oftentimes.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I've found it, like in the past anyway, like very, I guess in some ways frustrating when there isn't, and the reason why I bring it up is because I think there is a strong correlation, and this might be a commonality, where there's not necessarily I do this live stream, I do this video, I do this marketing effort, whatever it may be, right? I do this pamphlet, I do this print ad, etc. And then I instantly get a return, right? So the phone rings instantaneously saying, oh, hey, Andy, I love that video you did, etc. I mean, for me, like if you're doing something now, in 3 months to 6 months, you might see a return, right? And the key there, and the reason why I say might, is because it depends on, as we've already alluded to, the strategy, how you're doing it, what you're doing it, etc. But what would you say are like I guess just focusing a little bit on video then, why should, I guess there's this kind of a two-pronged question here, like number one, like why should, in your view, someone do video as a whole, right? Why, as a medium to create content, put themselves out there? But then number two, what would be the reasons behind A, why they shouldn't do it, or B, what are the hurdles they might run into when it comes to their fears, their worries, their concerns in respect to actually like doing this thing that we call a video? right? Because I think so many people don't do it because they're worried about it or because they're concerned about it. I mean, from your perspective, just to reiterate the question, why should someone do video? And then secondly, like, what kind of are the fears and the worries that they might run into?
I think because something stood out to before what you said, I think I could tie it into what you said before, because obviously what you talk about before is ROI. So any marketing thing we're doing, obviously ROI is often a motivator to do marketing, but then that's usually a short-term thing, return on investment. But then it's like something like a sales activation, or where you do a discount, or you just got like a campaign that's like short-term and you're trying to like get people to buy that particular product. And then there's also long-term, which is the brand building. So there's those two sort of objectives, like categories of like, we've got objectives in building that brand and long-term value, and then we've got the short-term of like just getting this product sold. If we've got loads of a particular product to sell, for example, it's like a physical thing that we want to get that sold, then we can, obviously one strategy is to do discount, but that's kind of like the last option you should really consider, because you want to think about what's relevant to the audience. Like we were saying before with pricing, if you set the pricing originally, then you'll know that it's the right price and you can just keep it at that price and keep just pushing it. And then this brand building side is more emotional and more what it feels like of the brand and what you stand for, values and all that stuff. And that needs to be a message that's communicated over time, and a story that people understand who you are and what it feels like to experience that brand, either in the marketing or in the product itself. So I think those things are important in whatever marketing you're doing. But then if you were using video, there's some of the benefits are that if you're a person like talking on camera like we're doing, it's like it can humanize the content rather than just text on a screen. Personality can obviously come through text as well, but it's like, I feel like it feels obviously more real. It's like a simulation almost of like real life. So I think that's one of the benefits of video content, and aligning that with the marketing stuff, with either focus on sales or sales activation or brand building.
Yeah.
Usually a combination of the two is the best approach. And then just to tie.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I think for me, whenever you look at maybe doing like a short-term campaign, as you like alluded to as well, like the video strategy or the ads or like the specific creative, so the thing you're going to be showing that audience, is going to be completely different in how it's designed, in my view at least, of like how we would create it if the objective is actually short-term sales. Like we're recording this and it's going out live at the start of October, and a lot of people are thinking about Christmas, right? Like now, to be honest, I'm pretty much booked for Christmas, right? In respect to the campaigns I'm doing and the stuff I'm doing, etc. And the reason why that's kind of happened is because I did a lot of the Christmas marketing beforehand, right? So to give the audience some more context, I mean, for me, like I start talking about Christmas, and there's kind of this joke in marketing. I'm sure you've heard of it as well, and others would have heard of it, where like you're starting to talk about Christmas towards the middle of the summer, because by the time you've done the prep and etc., and like maybe the actual production isn't until October, November, but all of the planning and everything else that goes into it will be towards that summer transition. But I think for me, like the point that I really wanted to, I guess, echo but also add to is, what is your objective? Are you in a position where, for whatever reason, you're trying to develop cash flow quickly, you don't have a strong pipeline, etc., then actually maybe marketing isn't the solution. And that for that specific case, I think for me, in that case, it should be more cold outreach. It should be reaching out to your, creating an ideal offer, creating a glance time offer, that kind of thing. And more looking at that, because that will have a shorter return window in respect to the amount of cash that can be generated and collected by a business for work done. So let's say, for example, I'm in a cash flow crunch, and I'll go, okay, so I'm going to do a video, promotional video deal, for example, for X price. Cool. And then I'm going to go to like 150 people within my network and say, hey, would you like this thing? Right. And if it's kind of more of a binary yes or no. But for me, the role, and this is why I think sometimes people get things wrong when it comes to marketing, is because like they don't see them as separate tasks, right? You've got to do marketing to get people to the point of sale. And I think for me, like, the overarching perspective when it comes to video itself is it humanizes, as you say, of course, but it also allows people to get to know you and build that parasocial relationship faster than like us, like there's kind of two, obviously there's two ways, and it's about the depth of connection, right? So you meet the person, you have meetings with the person, you go to networking, etc., which will lead into my next question, or you consume their content and you build that parasocial relationship. But a way of building a parasocial relationship is by having one-to-many, e.g. a video, e.g. piece of marketing that can help nurture, can help build trust, know, like, and trust through your audience to allow you to then, so I'm going to spend time with you talking today, but actually this is going to sit online and it's going to potentially be a multiple set of touch points for multiple sets of clients. And then that's not even before you then start pulling out the, the smaller chunks, etc. But for people who are maybe listening to this who are like, okay, cool, I'm going to start doing video. How should we start? Should we just jump in? Should we just record a quick video on our phone and post it? Like, what do you think?
It all starts with diagnosis, basically. So, like I mentioned before, so you can diagnose where you're at, where the business is at, like what are the challenges you're facing currently and all that kind of stuff, and like get a bit of a map. You can also then think about what you want to get to, and then map that out, and have use different tools. So like project management tools or things can be useful, like diagrams and different things like that. And once you've had that, then you can sort of think about like what could be the quickest thing we could do if we wanted to do that. Like if we wanted to, we want to get like good at creating videos, so maybe we could like do something really simple that moves in the right direction, but it's not so specific at the moment to actually get into that vision, but it's us practicing the skill of it. You could do something like that, for example, and you could just keep it really, really simple of like, let's just get on a video and just say, hey, we're thinking about doing more video content, and just like, we want to hear from you what your struggles are right now, like challenges and things, like let us know in the comments, or like give us your experiences of what it's like been like in the past with other content we've done, or other interactions we've had or whatever, and just see how people react. Because I know that sometimes some people actually get like a really good response from that, and other people don't get anything. So it's worth testing things like that and seeing where your strengths are and stuff. Because sometimes people have got a massive network and they've just never created content, or maybe a few written posts every now and again, but they're not really put video content out or content like that. And then just one thing like that can often get a lot of different people commenting and things, and obviously you can share it around and things. So that's one way of getting started. And then going back to your vision and your diagnosis of like where are our challenges and where are our strengths, and like how do we go and lean into the strengths and sort of make up for the challenges that we're facing at the moment.
Do you think, I mean, my next question was going to be around consistency, but like for me, when someone's looking at what they're doing, the key to whether someone's going to be successful for me is that element of consistency, right? Like, so I'll give you a very quick example. One of the reasons why I would argue that the podcast, or like what I'm doing with the YouTube channel, what I'm doing with the business, etc., like the only reason why it's consistent, or the only reason why it's consistently working, is because I'm being consistent with the output. I'm constantly looking at, okay, how can I up the quality? How can I do something different? How can I, how do I attract someone in that first 4 seconds or 5 seconds or 10 seconds, depending on where you look at your hooks, etc., depending on what platform we're on, etc. But from your perspective, I mean, is it just about having those consistent reminders going out and having that consistent content to show up for your ideal audience? Or is there actually more to being consistent? And then if so, how would you recommend, from your experience, people actually are consistent when it comes to video or when it comes to marketing as a whole?
One thing I was thinking about when you were talking about something else earlier was like you mentioned about like getting your personality across. And I think that's a big benefit of video. And if you've been to like a networking event, which I've been going to quite a lot recently, and like connecting with people, connect with somebody and then they see your content after they've met you in real life, I think it's a powerful combination. And it's and just having that going out there, even if it's nothing to do with your business, I think it's still a powerful tool to use, so people that get used to you and feel comfortable with you. It's like building that trust. But it's I think, even though I've talked about strategy and things like that, I've also recently been thinking less about it as well. And I think partly it might be to do with my being neurodivergent, because I always like seem to find it natural to break rules and to test new things that people don't expect. So like for me, I've been more like less strict about strategy and less strict about certain ways I show up to sort of say I do video content and all that, because I know that just showing up and being myself will like I say will build trust, and people will go into my page and they'll see my other content I've done about video content anyways, and they'll see like read my headline, read my bio, whatever, or go on my website, whatever, and then they'll find out more about me naturally. So it's like having that faith a little bit that I don't always have to be showing up like a maniac talking about video content all the time. It's like I can just like be myself, and I can talk about the things I care about, which more of the stuff I'm planning on doing more content around is accessibility, inclusion, and leadership. So like these topics are the ones that I'm interested in, I'm passionate about. So then me talking about that is just an extension of my personality, and it all motivates me to create more content. And then there's also going to be those moments when I go back to the expected thing that I talk about, which is about video again. But then because I always use a lot of video content anyways, and I'm filming myself, people will see the video content. So they'll see the quality of the content that I'm filming. And that's already showcasing my skills at the same time as me showing my personality. And I think for me as a video person, that's one thing I often remind myself about. So I don't need to stress myself out to think I need to be giving these video tips like everyone else does, or I need to do this, or like showing up in a certain way and like strategically positioning myself in a certain way. Like I'm still working on that, and that comes with time, I think, a little bit to refine things. But it's like I don't have to be too obsessed with that. And like I say, I like to break the rules and just test new things.
I think, the things I'll just pull out of that I completely agree with. I think sometimes when we look to either do video, we look to do content, it has to be in this model of like loads of people online, Gary Vaynerchuk, etc. Like people who I follow a lot, like they're constantly talking about add value, right? But I get where they're coming from, and yes, you should, right? Is the answer, but the caveat is, actually, if you're looking for long-term sustainability and long-term growth, and it's kind of a cliche now, but people do buy from people, right? So I kind of, when I'm looking for a supplier, when I'm looking for whatever it may be, I'm looking for a position where I can get to know the person behind the brand, right? Yes, I need to know that you're a good, like in your case or my case, yes, I need to know you're a good videographer. Yes, I need to understand that you're good at XYZ. Sure. So personally, yes, you should have some of that content out there. Yes, you should be sharing your knowledge. Yes, you should be sharing. But I think for me, it comes back to, and this is something I touched on last week with Chris, it's just about bandwidth, right? We discussed at the beginning a little bit about trend jacking, and this is where I think you can really have that kind of creative spark and kind of that creative element. But we did mention at the beginning about like everyone wants to talk about AI, everyone's looking to use AI. I mean, are you personally using AI? If so, like how? But also, should we? Like, why do you think it's such a big talking point online at the moment?
Yeah, like initially I was thinking to myself, I don't use it much, and now I'm thinking I do, because it's integrated now into a lot of things we use. So I think I let everyone use it now to some extent, without a lot of time, without realizing. Like AI is obviously built into search engines now. It's built into video editing software like DaVinci Resolve that I use. So it's like I do use it, but I don't really use it in much of an intentional way of like using one specific tool and like in that kind of way. But yeah, it's become a part of my workflow. Like definitely some useful features in DaVinci Resolve, like move background removal of noise and things like that.
Do you think it can go too far? Do you think people can use it too much?
A tool that's used for this, for like I say, go back to the strategy and really, because I think you mentioned earlier, like sometimes it's about what you don't do in your strategy, and you just think of like, as long as I'm clear about what I'm not doing, it'll become clearer what I will do, because it's like I have less options and the choice overload is reduced, and you become more clear, you have more clarity, and you're like, I'm not going to do that or that or that or that. Yeah. And especially if you're thinking like as a default perspective, not to jump on hypes and just think about your strategy, then you're going to be like more grounded and be like, what's going to be best for the strategy?
Yeah.
And then you make that decision. And then if it is one of the hype things, you can go, okay, I can use that and test that out as part of it. But it's not like a crutch.
I think you have to experiment in marketing. Like that's the first thing I would say, and then the second thing though would be, everything I put through that I'm thinking of doing, spending money on, a trip, whatever it is, a piece of gear, so on, so on, so on, so on, so on, right? Or even nowadays, to be honest, looking at some client jobs and looking at some projects that I'm like maybe asked to consult on, or asked to help with, or asked to produce, or whatever. And I think, is this gonna make my boat go faster? Is this money worth the time, energy, resources? A. B. Is the client the right fit? Right, A, B, or C, like how is their attitude, like how do they work, what is the value exchange good in respect to either how much you're making or potentially the benefits that client could potentially work with you, etc. Like but also, do you like them as people or person, depending on how you're working as well? Because I think sometimes something that I definitely struggled with in the early days was doing a load of things, like all the things that we say we should be doing as business owners, right? I need to be super visible. Okay, so that means I'm going to go to 100 networking meetings. I'm going to go and do 15 one-to-ones a week. I'm also going to do content. I'm also going to do this. I'm also going to, put some banner ads out. I'm also going to do paid ads. I'm also going to do this. I'm also going to like put letters through or leaflets through people's doors, etc. But the issue is, actually what ends up happening in my experience is you end up doing nearly all of those things badly. Instead, what you should do is you should say, okay, well, firstly, how do I want to spend my time? What's a good use of me as a founder, me as a leader, etc., spending my time? Okay, so for me personally, me being in content, I will never be able to outsource. Everything else about the content I can outsource. How it's edited, how it's SEO'd, when it's posted, all those things I can outsource. Me personally being in the content, talking to you today, I cannot outsource. I never will be able to outsource that unless we get to a position where, of course, AI can generate my content for me. But again, I would argue those who already have an established brand will be the ones who win from that, because actually it's me AIing myself, if that makes any sense, but it would only be used in a context to allow me to accelerate what I'm doing. So it would still have my nuance, it would still have me, but that only matters because of the years of work I put into building brand, right? But I guess the question that comes from that is there an opportunity with AI to potentially, like, I guess, infinitely scale? Or is it something which you're looking at as, okay, I can look for efficiencies, but actually, because I'm seeing kind of two camps. One is, yeah, let's use it, let's optimize it, and then let's use it to go out in volume and use it, etc. But also people are going, actually, no, we're not going to use it, and we're going to stand and say, I mean, I was on a very marketing websites, an old marketing person who I used to know a long time ago, their website today, and they have an AI policy. I didn't go into it, but I assume what that says is either this is how we use AI, or we don't use AI at all, right? I mean, looking forward into 26, 27, 28, do you think that more companies are going to do that?
It's about adaptability, really. Like we're saying with marketing, you do have to see what's going on and adapt. And whenever something makes sense, like I say, if it fits with your strategy and you think that could work to help us, that's a good thing, as long as you're not scrambling around and don't know what you're doing in the first place. Like with the overall strategy, you're all right to test and adapt. And I'm trying to think, what was the other topics? AI and
It's specifically, I think, for me, like, about, do you need to be doing everything, right? Like I gave that story of, I was doing loads and loads of things, and then I was doing them really badly. So for me, I'm focused on a very few set of pillars to get work now, right? From a marketing point of view, paid ads, content creation, and testing my creative to then use in paid ads. That's basically roughly what I'm doing. I'm dabbling in a bit of blog writing, etc., etc. Like that's one of my unique kind of like testing things, and then I'm building out the YouTube channel potentially as another revenue stream, but also as another marketing source. So that's personally what I'm doing. Do you see people going down that route and just doing a small set of things very, very well, or do we think does one think that we need to be a bit more diversified as a whole when it comes to our marketing?
I think it's more the first version, but also thinking about with your company, Brunton Media, it's your name, but at the same time, I think your content could be still not featuring you because it's a business. Yeah, and that's the way I look at my content. Is in the future, I want to get other people involved and it be a team effort. And I do enjoy doing it, but I don't feel like it has to be always me on camera. And as I go forward, I want to do more collaborations with different people. I'm going to be like putting more events together and things like that. That's definitely a part of my like journey going forwards in the vision of what
Mm.
we're putting together. And different communities I want to target and create those movements together in a way that gives back, and then also to where to get my name out there and promote myself. I think it's a good thing when you can find ways to do both those things together. You're having a positive impact and you feel satisfied by the interactions with people, networking and being creative together and things, collaborating. But then you're also obviously putting your name out in the brand building side of things. And that's what I'm thinking about, is like things like podcast episodes, but also like creative sketches, like comedy sketches is something I want to do more of. And I'm going to be working more actors and things like that. And it kind of goes into the filmmaking path, which something I've always found tricky to actually execute on, because you kind of need like a bit of a team generally to make that work. Especially obviously you're working with actors or whatever to really bring a story together. And it's something I want to experiment more with, and at the same time like be building my brand and stuff like that. So yeah, excited to do that.
I think for me, this is something that I've heard a lot commonalities through episodes and etc. before, which is, I guess, the founder weakness, which is clients get to know, like, and trust you, right? So they get to know Colton rather than they get to know Bronte Media, right? Now, I was having a conversation with a client yesterday, and he was talking about the image perception of a Gmail account, right? Now, this is the first conversation I've ever had with a client where it's been actually like had a conversation or etc. with me about kind of, is there a level of perception? But for me, I can see it as when it's like Colton is the company, the Bronte Media, right? Like that's the main face. When you're starting out or when you're building it as a family business, then you should lean into your personal I guess nuances or who you are as a person, right? Because the likelihood is that when someone rings you, they're going to still ring you. When they connect with you on shoot, etc., or like when they hire you, they're going to work with you, right? The interesting step will be what potentially I do or you do or one does when they step beyond that, right? So first employee, second employee, third employee, etc., and getting to a position where, yes, Colton is the quote managing director or the person who is the top of the company, but actually it's how you, I guess, manage that risk from a, like, if they're speaking about on behalf of Bronte Media in videos, for example, like how would one, because I know there would be a side of my head from like a comms manager point of view, which would be like, can I trust this person to represent the company, right? And I guess, would it be as powerful as me saying it in a video, like just building off your point, or is there a risk for that? So I guess the question that kind of, is that something you're thinking about? Is that like a risk that you can see other companies potentially run into? And if so, how do we maybe eliminate that risk or maybe bring that risk lower? Would you say?
So the risk, what's the risk again? The risk.
So I guess the risk, I guess, like in crux is me as a founder. I have to be in the content. I have to be on the shoot. I have to be on the sales call, right?
Which then can be, and also as a founder, I was just thinking when you're talking, as a founder, you create the kind of blueprint of the company and brand and everything because of your personality. So all your values become the company values, which then, and you're the leader. So then what you stand for and what you care about is how you create a culture. And then that's something that I've become more interested in, the idea of creating cultures, and become more passionate about. I wanted to step into that and be a leader and stuff. And like in my past, I never saw myself as a leader. And over time, I've seen like what leadership really is and understood it more. And now I see how I already am a leader, because we all are a leader in some way. In like a leader of yourself is one part of it. A leader in your family, because you influence everybody, whoever you interact with, friends and family. Like you are leading situations, or sometimes avoiding leadership decisions, and you know that you can look out for the opportunities and to step into that. So I think if you have that blueprint of your business and brand and stuff, and the values, it just ends up coming across in your content if you speak. But then if you clearly communicate with the people that you work with in the business, and they're already in the business and understand the culture and everything, then when you point a camera at them, hopefully it's going to come through. And if it's not, you can.
I think again, I think it's a new skill set. That's something that I've found as I've learned, like I've got to work with new people, and whether it's freelancers or whether it's internal staff, etc. And this is also true when you work with clients as well, right? Like you'll become to an extension, especially if you're handling their marketing, handling their socials, etc. You'll become an extension, and you need to at minimum understand their tone of voice, how they come across, what their maybe prestige is, what their understanding, like how they want to be perceived in the world or in the market. And I think for me, that's maybe where that deep work, like building off what we discussed earlier, like that strategic side, where sometimes people get stuff wrong, right? We don't go into depth enough into understanding who's my ideal profile, who's my ideal customer, but also what market, quote, sectors are we looking to target, are we looking to talk to? But for maybe, those who are maybe watching this and listening and saying, well, okay, I'm a small business, right? And I don't have like 100K or £1,000 or £10,000 or whatever it may be, right? They don't have that nominal, what they would perceive as a large figure or a large budget to get ahead. I mean, how would you recommend they either start or, quote, get ahead without necessarily just throwing money at it?
Yeah, there's always something you can do, like I mentioned before, with that idea of starting with, you've got a strategy and you've got a bit of a plan and a map and everything, but then you just find like a simple thing out of that and think, is there something in there that we could move towards the vision, or something that's, I don't know, just anything really that you think in a way we could just start, and it can just be simplified and not overthink it, just to be like, let's just make a video about, even just a video about making a video, because it's the actual process that matters, not the actual results so much, because that'll happen eventually over time. And I think a lot of people too obsessed with the idea of being professional and stuff, and it's like sometimes people's content feels like AI, even if it's not AI, because it's trying to be overly professional all the time, because AI thinks in a structured way of like, very specific structured way of like, this is the way it has to be. So then it's like, it seems like people have that as well, like locked into it, these ideas rationally, rather than something beyond that that could be more emotional, or could be more authentic and intuition going on and things like that. We step out of the fear and we just take action, and we just see how it goes, and showing up in a way that's not that you're not scared, and you're just empowered to take action. People will resonate with that, and they'll respect you for it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think I just what I was thinking while you were talking. I mean, I think for me, it's about what do you want to optimize for, right? Are you trying to optimize for the algorithm, right? So getting that click-through rate, getting that high watch time, etc., or are you actually trying to, quote, optimize for the human, right? For the connection, for the person who you're likely to connect with, even if it's one or two or three. And I think sometimes we don't feel great, right? We don't start the podcast, we don't do the video, because the nature of it is going to be, when we start, it's only going to be 5 views, it's only going to be 3 views, it's only going to be, my mum and my friend and Andy who likes my content, right? But actually, in reality, if I kept going for 2 years, I kept going for 3 years, number one, I'm going to get better every single time, I would hope, through time. But also, it's going to slowly build momentum, right? Those 3s will become 5, those 5s will become 10s, those 10s will become 100, then thousands, and so on, right? If you're consistent, in my view, right? And I think it's consistent in how much you're posting and what you're posting, but also like how you come across. And this is why being authentic to yourself is really important. I'm aware of times, I think, let's wrap up soon, but for those people who, have really enjoyed this conversation, who, really want to connect with you, where's best for them to do that?
So LinkedIn, it's the place where I'm the most active. So yeah, just connect with me on LinkedIn.
Fair. And if you were going to talk to yourself 10 years ago, if you were going to give advice to that person, what advice would you give them?
Well, I think the biggest advice would be to get diagnosed for ADHD. Because I didn't know that back then, that I had ADHD. So that's the biggest impact that's been on my life, is to understand my ADHD. Yeah. And then in terms of business and things like that, I think learning about the fundamentals of marketing earlier on would have been a big help. And then also like about the time things you talk about, like putting your energy into things that are specific about, you know, what your strengths are, putting time into that, and then finding like support systems around other things to get help with. Like I'm working with the VA now, so like if I'd have started working with the VA earlier on, I know I would have, you know, been able to accelerate growth quicker and become more effective with my time and energy. And I also don't think of time, and I don't think of it as time anymore. I think of it as just energy. So I just think like, what energy do I have in this moment, this present moment, and use that based on what I want to get, what I want to achieve and stuff like that, and what are the priorities and different things like that. So I'm like thinking of, sometimes I'm just thinking of like, even like when I'm out and I'm at a networking event, I'm thinking, should I take longer and get a bus? Or should I just get a taxi and get back? And recently I've just been getting taxis because I'm thinking energetically, I'm thinking, let me just get the taxi and get back into stuff. And I've still got the momentum to finish work I'm doing or whatever, rather than saving money and do it and getting the bus or whatever. It's like different things like that, like time is on one hand and then the other is energy. And I've been sort of like noticing the difference when I'm making decisions based on what feels good in the energy.
Well,
and that's also like my personality too.
Yeah, it's just as a final thought. I mean, for those who've got this far, I mean, thank you obviously for listening. But like something that really stood out to me from what you were saying, that also agrees with like someone else who I really respect business wise. He said, well, you need to specifically understand it's about efficiency, right? But also about how you set your mindset up when it comes to like what you're going to do. So there's kind of like two modes, the way I see it in business. A, we're trying to cut costs, we're trying to limit our risk, right? We're trying to bring down that overall cost. Or B, we're trying to push forward. How can we make more sales? How can we bring in more revenue? And I think once you're in that growth stage, now, this isn't to say don't have cash discipline. This isn't to say don't have a cash cushion, don't do good money management, etc. But I think it's a different shift in your mind, and that kind of builds off like what you were talking about, the bus versus taxi thing. For me, the taxi thing is obviously a more efficient thing when it comes to time, but also it's about flow state, right? If you've got, say, this really great networking meeting, or you come off this live and you're like, actually, hey, this was a really cool takeaway, etc. Like, then you should potentially put yourself in a position where you can like get back to the studio, get back home, so you can then film that video while that energy is there, rather than, oh, I'm gonna have a downtime, chill, go on the bike. So, but also you might want that decompression, and I think they're the two differences. But
Come and relax straight away, and it's relaxing to have a taxi. It's more convenient. I get in it, go straight there. It's less complications going on or risks of things going wrong or whatever. And then I can actually decide to rest or work when I get back. So I like having that because it's flexible, and it's like for me to figure out how to work flexibly. That's been a big part this year for me, knowing that I'm neurodivergent and realizing I need more time to process things and I need more space and flexibility and that kind of stuff. So that's like a massive learning this year, which I would have told myself 10 years ago. Definitely those kind of things.
Fab. Anything else you want to mention before we part ways, Andy?
I guess going back to just reiterating the part about energy versus time, and like thinking about what the energy and how it feels like, and following that can be a powerful place to sort of leap into, rather than us thinking about time all the time. Because sometimes I'll be pressuring myself through the day, thinking like wanting to do things all the way through the day, like because I'm thinking of it based on time, like I should be working from this time to that time and this time to that time, and it's like. But then I don't need to think of it that way. That's just a structural way I think. I can actually change that and flip it on its head and be like, what energy do I have in this moment? And then flip into that. And then do I need to rest? Maybe rest. And then when I come back into things, I've got more energy again now. So then each task I'm doing I can be more effective at doing it. And yeah, and then having other support systems around me, I've asked people to do things for me that I don't really want to spend my time doing, or I have resistance. Like some things that are like reading documents or things where I've got to think like that stuff, and it's very serious stuff. Whatever. Some people are a lot better than me at doing that, and for me, I'll just get overwhelmed, and I'm like, I want to avoid it, and it's hard for me to actually face it. And they can do it really quickly, and it always surprises me because I'm used to doing it myself, and how much of a pain it is for me to do. When I see them doing it, I'm like, whoa. And they finished it and sent it back to me, and I'm like, that was crazy. So yeah.
Magic. Well, thank you so much, ladies and gents. I hope you took value from this episode. If you did, well, be subscribed. YouTube thinks that you enjoy this video right here, so why not click on that, and I'll see you very, very soon. Take care.